having, in a sense, to...
Money can't even buy representation this good. You gotta know somebody.
With Daddy Mystery.
Move over, River. Let Ginsberg take over.
So our problem here, or what I've been posed with, is having, in a sense, to fighting the state and the intrusions of the state. I'm speaking of the old constitutional free speech.
Yeah.
Or that the state should not be intruding on discourse in public discourse.
With Daddy Mystery.
And the state has a tendency to do that. I've experienced it in my own work. With Daddy Mystery. Hold back the old noble Daddy Mystery. Hold back the old noble Daddy Mystery.
Let's simply talk about whether or not we have a police state which severely impinges on your freedom. Burton.
Unjust democratic discourse.
The question is whether he's civilized.
Police have been acting illegally all along, and the police have been running a police state in that area. With Daddy Mystery.
He undertook to challenge publicly certain conventions which in my judgment perfectly civilized people are entitled to maintain, and which perfectly civilized people are entitled to challenge under democratic discourse. The question is whether he's civilized.
But how do you determine that somebody's uncivilized and say they shouldn't talk?
I think it's worth.
How do you determine that somebody's uncivilized and say they shouldn't talk?
I think it's worth. Green audience can simultaneously maintain two things. One, that they don't want a series of words used which may be being watched by their old aunt or their 10-year-old daughters, and their old aunt or their 10-year-old daughters.
But how do you determine that somebody's uncivilized and say they shouldn't? Uncivilized and say they shouldn't. The old noble Daddy Mystery insistence on protecting them from realizing the clubs of language and the blood of word.
Considering if it would be offensive to some people to hear those words spoken, then you would presumably express yourself without using them.
I censor myself, and the audience know I'm censoring myself. Please don't insist that it's right. Realizing the clubs of language and the blood of word.
You believe, actually, you have in a curious sort of way a standard which says that there ought to be no standard.
No, that's interesting. No, I'm not saying no standard. I'm saying no one can understand the problem of the police state scene that we're going through, as I see it, is such that I can't pronounce it to the middle class audience. So the middle class audience doesn't really have the actual data. The reason the old aunt or 10-year-old daughter doesn't understand the problem of the police state in America is that the data is not given to them on the media of mass communication. All the avant-garde poets, and that's our subject here, the avant-garde, in a sense, has no medium to communicate with you all. We're shut out, kind of. I mean, I can get up here and blah, blah, blah about Philatio, but I can't talk, in a way that a truck driver will.
I'll interpret for you, how's that? I'll interpret for you, how's that?
Okay, there's a limit to how much the police can go inside. The state should not be interfering within the bodies of the citizens. Well, researching his legal case, it was really a Kafkian thing with like a state organized conspiracy against him.
I'll interpret for you, how's that?
Understand?
I don't really think you make a very plausible case, Mr. Ginsberg, suggesting that
and the blood of
got hung up on account of being stopped in the moment halfway through a scatological tirade, which in itself suggested that he was slightly off.
No, scatological tirade, it was not. It was political speech. What you call scatological tirade was the language he was using, paraphrasing redneck Southern sheriffs. He was doing old Swiftian satire, making use of the actual language of what he felt was the psychic enemy, presenting it in public in front, and he was arrested for presenting that political evidence, the psychic enemy.
No, I don't think he was arrested. Yes, because he was trying to make a political point.
His texts of his
monologue,
nightclub routines were very similar to Burroughs's, actually, and were primarily social political criticism.
There's no question but that he was committed by people who had political motives in part in mind.
I
But this amount of money was spent in prosecuting them.
Even more. That's what's so horrible. Taxpayers' money is being used up to put down the shutouts.
But they actively tried to contaminate other people. Contaminate other people. Contaminate other people. They actively tried to contaminate other people.
And the blood of word. And the blood of word. And the blood of word.
They actively tried to contaminate other people. They actively tried to contaminate other people.
We're shut out. We're shut out.
Contaminate other people. Actively tried to contaminate other people. Actively tried to contaminate other people. Contaminate other people.
We're shut out.
Actively tried.
If one is building a contaminate art out of one's actual consciousness instead of an artificial consciousness, that language will enter in as part of the building blocks, just as sensory perception, mind-eye images will enter in because they're part of our sensory field, and part of our sensory field is the language running through our head, the language we speak in every day. Those are the building blocks of art. We're experiencing it now, the octopus of the state intruding on our language consciousness.
Well, I'm experiencing it. You are, because you're being denied my actual speech. This continuum that you just assaulted us with, it began with Henry James and ended with you. Burton. I think it's winning. 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 When they are used with great frequency, they have a completely different effect from the effect they have when they are used infrequently. So that even a relatively chaste word, if it is said leeringly and for effect, in a context that makes it highly conspicuous, it oughtn't to have has a shock value that it oughtn't to have intrinsically. Burton. Researching is like a Kabbalic scholar.
Researching is like a Kabbalic scholar. Researching Kabbalic scholar researching his legal case. Researching is like a Kabbalic scholar researching his legal case. Much less working and leading a more or less healthy, active life, and he got all hung up on drugs. Researching is like a Kabbalic scholar researching his legal case. His general activity was the police activity which prevented him from coming to New York, even physically. Researching is like a Kabbalic scholar researching his legal case, to which the police did not yield, to which the district attorney did not yield, to which the lower courts did not yield, to which nobody yielded for years and years until the poor man was dead. But it was really a Kafkian thing with like a state-organized conspiracy against him. It was very sad.
I don't really think you're going to make a very plausible case, Mr.
Researching is like a Kabbalic scholar researching his legal case. Researching is like a Kabbalic scholar researching his legal case.
I suppose I know that people.
Louis Ferdinand Céline.
No, I don't. I even know who introduced you, Céline Burroughs.
Yeah. Old teacher.
The Burton.
Burroughs and Kerouac.
In Kerouac, yeah.
Kerouac likes your style.
Kerouac wants me to be president.
Burton. Because he likes your style.
Burton. This continuum that you just assaulted us with. This continuum that you just assaulted. This continuum that you just assaulted. This continuum that you just assaulted us with.
Like a large enough group.
Now you're changing the subject. Let's stick to the artistic part. Not go on to Kinsey.
It was very sad.
I don't really think you're going to make a very plausible case, Mr. Ginsberg.
Happen if we tuned into your secret consciousness, or anybody's here. Why don't I read a poem?
You can determine the summaries uncivilized without necessarily returning
a legal poem. Well, the problem with him was that, I think that the district attorneys in the state felt that he was so barbaric he should not be allowed to present his evidence in public. Everybody would shout with joy on the television screen watching.
Expressing yourself without using them. Expressing yourself without using them. Attune the word.